Hello, everybody. It's my pleasure to welcome you for the debate of our second day of the EU AI Week. We will talk about AI in public services. AI is a technology that is faster than ever, pervasive, transforms the job market, transforms the learning processes, needs a multidisciplinary approach in which ethical and legal issues are omnipresent, and requires also a global and multidisciplinary, as I said, perspective. So when we talk about AI, we talk about in a mirror about ourselves and the society we want. So today we will talk about AI in the public services, and is AI a hype? In fact, this is not a question. AI is present, and it presents many opportunities and many challenges. So the opportunities, we will see through the debate that there are many possible applications. We can hope effectiveness in several processes, but foremost, we expect from it better public services, meaning support civil servants in their task, but also better interaction with the citizen and the enterprise. Let's also notice that AI allows also more data-based decisions. So we talk often about the bias, but AI is also an opportunity to identify the bias. We have many challenges. The governance, so we have to have an ethics by design approach. We have to involve the end user in the development of the solution. We have to have engineers, ethicists, and it's really difficult to have a governance at the different level. And in Belgium also, because we have the federal, the region, the communities, and everybody is involved. So the governance is the main challenge. Then align innovation, ethics, and regulation. So do we dare to use and experiment with AI? We have talked yesterday, that was the main theme of the debate of yesterday, innovation and regulation, and that was the conclusion, is still a challenge. The capacity building, so do we have the competencies internally? How will we train all the civil servants, but also sensibilize the citizen with the use of AI? The trust and acceptability is foremost important challenge. And then the exemplarity, because if we use the AI, the public services must be exemplar in the use of it. There are several roles for public services in relation to AI. The role of regulator, you have heard about the AI Act, or there was many discussion about AI definition. This is also to protect fundamental rights. So let's talk about other digital regulation, the DMA, for example, Digital Market Act. It's also there to avoid toxic use of the digital technology. So it's important, this role of regulator. The role of enabler, so to make the data accessible, to manage the commons that we can develop. The role of user, but AI will become a commodity. And the role of developer, so there are many applications, and we can develop our own application. This raises many questions from the beginning. Ethical issues, so we have to align with the ethics requirement from the European Commission that inspire also the AI Act, so human agency and control, transparency, robustness and safety, data privacy, non-discrimination, fairness, societal and environmental well-being, and accountability. But what is really important is not only words, it's understand what is behind that and make it concrete. For transparency, for example, it's the explainability, it's also the traceability, so where do the data come from, It's also the communication you are using an AI solution. So, for example, in the AI Act, you have many aspects of the transparency. So it's not only words, it must be put into practice, and that's not so easy. We will talk about that. Security issues. Security is also super important. We've done at the Federal Public Service, BOSA, with all the partners, mapping of AI application within the federal administration. We will include in the next weeks also what's available in the region. And this is available on our website. This is a work that has been done by Adrien Pouls. So 63 organizations were contacted, more than 140 applications were identified, 62 POCs, 7 pilot projects, but also many deployed projects, 48 at the moment, of which 12 are chatbots, but there are many applications, and I cannot cite all of them. So here you see the different kind of application you can find. So predictive analytics, optimization, and planification. Also in human resource management, we have many applications. The agenda for today, we will have 2 parts, so 2 keynotes, and we will welcome speakers from abroad. So a first part with Colin Van Noordt, with an inspiring keynote on the state of play of AI in the Dutch government. Then a discussion, and you will have the possibility to ask your question at the end of the little debate we will have. And then we will have a second keynote on the use of generative AI with super keynote Bertrand de Longueville on the adoption of generative AI in the European institutions. So let's welcome our panelists, and I will call Christine Kopers first, from Minister of Interior, Hans Arents from Digital Vlaanderen, Bertrand de Longueville from the Joint Research Center. Maybe Hans, could you go there and you on this zetel? Okay, it's important for the technique. Okay, thank you. And Colin online. So I will sit myself, and let's begin. Could you introduce yourself in short and explain your role? So Hans.
I'm Hans Arents from the Flanders Digital Agency. That's the agency in the Flemish government which is responsible for the digitalization of the Flemish government and the local governments. I have, it's almost 25 years of experience in e-government and digital government. And so I'm very excited to experience this latest revolution, the introduction of AI in government. And we have created an AI expertise center inside the agency to support the Flemish government and the local governments in their transformation through the use of artificial intelligence.
Christine?
Okay, I'm Christine Kopers. I started working as an innovation manager for the Home Office, Binnenlandse Zaken, in January 23, where they just started a new DG called Innovation and Digital Solutions, where I was asked to start a new innovation department. Within that department, we have a very small team, a digital studio, where we have where we created lab conditions, where we do experiments, where we play around with new technologies, but always based on the real business cases and real use cases from within the administration.
Yes, goeiedag, bonjour tout le monde. Allemaal. It's a great pleasure to be here today. I'm Bertrand de Longueville. I work for the European Commission's Joint Research Center, which is the scientific arm of the European Commission. So we are a fully fledged research organization, and in the same time we are insiders. So we are colleagues with those who write the very interesting policies that you mentioned, among many others. Yes, today I'm glad to share some experiences we had with generative AI, specifically in the European institutions.
So great. So I'm Nathaniel Ackerman. I'm the head of AI at BOSA and the lead of the AI for Belgium coalition. And now I will let the floor to Colin from Amsterdam.
Now, yes, but I'll very happy to be here virtually. I hear a small echo. Is there something we can do about that? Doesn't matter. So I'm Colin Van Noordt. I am currently a researcher at the Netherlands Court of Audit. So I audit the use of algorithm AI and also recently the use of cloud by the Dutch government. And we published also some kind of mapping and an inventory of the AI use cases used in the Dutch central government that I would be very happy to share with you. So I'll just go over that and share the screen. And now you should be able to see the presentation. So it's always a bummer to be the only person who is then presenting online. So I cannot see everybody in the room, but please, if you have any questions, please ask them. I'll do my best. So this is the report. It's called Focus on AI in the Dutch Federal Government. It was a relatively quick study. And you can also find it in Dutch and in English. It's both available online. So feel free if this sparks your interest. And what was, of course, important, and thanks, Nathaniel, for the nice introduction of some of the opportunities and also the challenges that AI in the government can provide. But one of the big questions, and that was also here in the Netherlands and in our institution, is if we want to make sure that we harness the opportunities, but we also make sure we protect citizens from the risk, it is of course very important that we first need to know what are actually the systems that we are using. And for a long time, this was still very unclear. Also in the Dutch central government, there is a algorithm register, but many AI use cases are actually not there yet. So at the time of our study, it was only 5% that we actually found also online. So that, of course, created a big of a gap. So we did a study at 70 organizations, so quite similar to your mapping that you mentioned earlier, where we asked them to provide an inventory of some of the of all the AI systems that they are using or have experimented with in the last 5 years. And I will just quickly go over some of the main highlights. There's much more in the report, but then I can talk for 2 hours, of course. These are some of the cool findings. So in the end, we found 433 different AI systems across those 70 organizations. And one of the things we asked about was, of course, also the status of the AI system. So, right, is this still an experiment, or is this something that's really routinely being used in the organization already? And what you can see also in the figure is that most of the cases, they are still ongoing experiments, and this can range from a very early experiment to an experiment that's a little bit long lasting. But also surprisingly is that also 141 AI systems are already terminated. So there's no follow-up on these experiments, or they were in use for a while, but not anymore. In the end, only 120 AI systems were being said that these are actually in use in the organization. And they vary very extremely from mostly from internal processing, but also some that more related to inspection and enforcement. And you can see that also if you look at the number of AI systems per organizations, right? So there's quite a widespread use of AI. Every organization is doing something with AI, but the amount of AI systems is not that high yet, right? So almost all of them, they use either 0 until 3 AI systems at most. There are 2 exceptional organizations in that sense. So the police and also our Dutch insurance organization, they stood out with the most AI systems in deployment. But as you can see, almost all organizations, 0 up to 3. So in my view, it's still quite a preliminary phase where we are in terms of AI use in public administrations. We also, of course, looked at what organizations see as the main opportunities of AI. And there are quite a wide range of different opportunities mentioned, right? So what could it do? And some often categorize in these 5 main categories. Of course, it depends a little bit on the organization and specific tasks, but you can see that there's quite a big interest in using AI for programming purposes, right? So Copilot, for instance, but also to use AI to prioritize certain tasks, right? Or maybe certain inspections, help with the retrieval of information, perhaps the automation of tasks, do more with less people or with less resources, or even in light of labor shortages, to still be able to function, and also to identify potential risks, either maintenance, but also in fraud with the use of AI. But of course, this is all what could happen. We also definitely noticed that there were different barriers to the use of AI, right? So many barriers were mentioned that limit the development and the use of this technology. And they are just as wide-ranging as the opportunities, right? There's not a specific barrier that stood out among the rest, but they relate quite strongly with, basic information management, right? So what's the data quality? Does the organization have enough data available to even develop AI systems? Or is it still in an early phase? Maybe they have the data, but maybe not the computing power, or maybe the existing information systems, they are too old to really link it together with. Other challenges that are mentioned are from a more legal nature, and it's not only about the GDPR and, for instance, the upcoming AI Act, but it's also that maybe the way the organization operates is very strictly mentioned by the law, and that limits their possibility to innovation. Or maybe it's the unclarity about certain regulation. In this case, for instance, the GDPR data sharing arrangement. It was sometimes limiting the development and adoption, according to some of these organizations. Of course, organizational resources matter a lot. Organizations mentioned they do not have the expertise inside to really use AI responsibly, or they have too many budgetary restraints to really start using AI, or to overcome some of these other barriers. And also for us, quite surprising as an audit organization, of course, that also mentioned the burden of compliance, that if you use AI, that some noted that the compliance burden is quite hard, so they rather don't do it at all. So that was, of course, quite interesting to see. And also, of course, in light of the AI Act, as I'm sure that we will get around in the discussion later on as well, we also gave and asked the organizations to give at least an indication of what they think will be the risk level under the AI Act. And as you can see, most organizations classify the AI systems that they are currently developing or are in use as a minimal risk system or as a limited risk system. And while we didn't did an assessment of the validity of these classifications, but many highlighted that this is still a work in progress, that this is still unclear, or that they will have to reclassify some of the other systems. And of course, as some of you already know, that for instance, the forbidden systems are already forbidden since February this year. So it's quite important that at least you're not using a forbidden system already. So with that, I hope that was a very quick scan of our report, but I'm very happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin. Can you hear us?
Yes, all good.
Okay, that's perfect. So before entering into the debate, I will suggest that everybody reminds us the role of your organization and how you would assess the level of maturity regarding AI adoption. So I give you the command. Hans, you are the first. But you can stay here if you want. Yeah. Yeah, to the right. Yeah, that was Colin. Yeah. And this is you.
Okay.
Okay.
So, AI in the Flemish government, to give you a brief idea of what we are working on and what are our priorities. What we have said in the Flemish government is that we want to fully embrace the power of AI, but we want to do so in a trustworthy manner. So we think it is very important that as a government that we use AI in a trustworthy manner. We have IMEC does a survey of attitudes that the Flemish citizens have. They do a survey each year, and in the Digimeter last year we saw that one of the last institutions that our citizens still have trust in is government. So we have to be very careful as a government that we don't lose that trust. That's why we've said we're going to have a number of guiding principles for the use of AI in the Flemish government. AI in the Flemish government has to be democratic, has to be trustworthy, human-centered, and also sustainable, because we all know that these AI systems use a lot of energy and water, so we have to be careful about that. We have to focus on a proper management and use of data, certainly personal data, and it has to be applied with the necessary expertise. So our civil servants have to have necessary competences to use AI in effective and trustworthy ways. For this trustworthy aspect, we've added 8 conditions which have to be fulfilled. These are conditions which were also formulated by the high-level expert group on AI of the European Commission. So it's basically these same conditions that we expect that have to be respected by the AI systems that we use in government. To make this possible, we have created inside the Flemish, inside the digital agency, the Flanders Digital Agency, a AI expertise center, and we have 5 pillars for our activities. First and foremost, we help government organizations, both Flemish government organizations and local government organizations, to formulate their vision and strategy. We want to stimulate innovation. We want to enable this trustworthy AI, so we have to be very careful about what kind of AI systems that we choose to deploy in order to respect this goal of having trustworthy AI. We have to prepare the people and the organization, so we have to see that they have the right competences and the right training. And of course, we need to define an AI architecture, a technical infrastructure that makes these goals possible. One of the first things that we've done is we have just released, not more than a week ago, we have just released an AI playbook. So this AI playbook helps you formulate an AI vision and a strategy. It gives you tips and tricks on how to stimulate innovation inside your government, and it explains how you can prepare your people and your organization for this trustworthy use of AI. We are planning on a second edition of this AI playbook, in which we will also have some guidelines on how you can define your own AI architecture. So that's basically the things you can get from the AI Expertise Center, so you can get advice. We have advice on the use of Microsoft 365 Copilot. We've done a pilot study on the use of Copilot. We have this AI playbook. We are creating an AI advisory council, which will provide advice on what are the important trends in AI technology that we have to follow as a government. We provide assistance, so if you have trouble defining your AI use cases, we can set up workshops to help you define your own internal use cases. We're in the process of developing an AI competence model so that we can define for each kind of civil servant what are the precise competences that he needs to have. And as well as once we have defined these competences, we will provide the necessary AI literacy training, as we are obliged to do since the 2nd of February of this year. We also provide inspiration with a yearly AI Inspiration Day. We have a very active AI network of practitioners and policy advisors on AI. We have an AI radar, which is comparable with your inventory of AI systems. And we also plan on setting up an AI lab where we will explore new and promising AI technologies to see which kind of technologies can we deploy in a government context. If you're looking for practical things, we have already had a lot of success with our guidelines on the appropriate use of generative AI in government. We're now working on a guidance note on the AI Act, so explaining what is the meaning of the AI Act specifically for governments, because it has some additional requirements specific for governments, and it's important to understand those. And then we hope to create an AI Act self-evaluation tool, which allows you to see what is your level of maturity as far as the use of AI is concerned, and your level of maturity of compliance with the AI Act. That's
Thank you, Hans. So you're quite mature in your strategy. Is it okay with the mic?
Yeah, it's okay. It's disassembling itself. We're quite mature in the sense that we are trying to get the necessary governance in place, but we have just had a parliamentary question on the use of AI in Flemish government, and there you see something which is similar to what Colin just described. A lot of proof of concepts, a few systems which are being used, but they already see that we are only at the very beginning of the use of AI in government.
Okay, so Christine, how would you assess the maturity, and can you remind us the role of your organization within Binnenlandse Zaken,
Yes,
so Home Affairs?
Prepared a couple of slides myself as well. Of course, this is the different focus on a single organization. We looked at AI from the beginning like some kind of a balancing act, because you have to find the golden way between the strengths and the opportunities that the technology will give us, and the weakness and the threats even on the other side. And one of the things I personally was a bit worried about when I started working there is that when we talked about AI, the reaction would be very quickly, yes, we're not going to go that way because it's way too dangerous and we don't know what's going on. So in order to arrive at a vision and a strategy, we really need to find that balance to create that vision. Binnenlandse Zaken, IBZ, is a large organization, and it's a complex one with very different DG's on the inside. They all have different needs. They all work at different speeds. Some of them have very different tasks and missions to perform, and it means that some DG's within our organization are absolutely not worried about AI at all, and others are really waiting to go forward as fast as they can. So that's another balance that you have to find, because it's not a one-fit-all environment that we work in. The new DG where I work for, where we started our innovation department, is mainly responsible for the whole ICT management for the whole ministry and the support, and of course also for the innovation part of the activities. And I hesitated if I was going to add it, but I added it anyway. There's of course always a budgetary context, and the budgetary context is getting more and more difficult, which is also an opportunity, because we can use the technology to help us fill in the gaps, but it's also it's going to hinder us if we want to move forward, like Colin mentioned earlier. Just one slide to explain that we have a sort of dual approach in the innovation when it comes to AI. There's a strategic side where we created almost a year ago a transversal task force within the organization. In that task force, we have representatives of all the DG's and the most important business units, but also the technical people, the cybersecurity people, the DPOs, the legal people, because this is a transversal thing that we need to organize. It's not just something from IT. And the approach is really fix the basics. What are the capabilities that we need? Which are the capabilities that are lacking? We started by making an internal inventory what are we doing with AI on the inside of the organization? Who is using what and what for? The need for an AI maturity assessment is actually rather big, because it's going to help us create some kind of a baseline. If we know what the lacking points are, or if we know what the direction is that we want to evolve in, the baseline will help us prioritize and propose actions to our management and say, look, we need to work on data governance, or we need to work on skills, or we need to work on cybersecurity, etc., etc. Because, of course, within the task force, we really have to look at which domains within the administration are the most have the most potential for AI to help them achieve the missions that they have to create. On the operational side, which means in our innovation lab, in the digital studio, we really work on real use cases, and I think everybody who's also in the room or outside the room who's working on POCs and experiments we are all doing probably the same things. Cases that have you can read them there. The business cases for using large language models to work on documents, to summarize, to translate, to use AI for coding and documentation of old code, or visualization of legacy code, for example. NLP experiments, skills mapping, all these things are specific use cases that always start with the question: can AI help us solve a problem? Which is not necessarily the case in each case. So the business users often have very similar challenges, and we always have the same discussions when something comes up to start a project. That's the whole discussion on privacy, security, data, performance, costs, the development issues. One of the things that we find very important is that we do a lot of knowledge sharing with other federal public services and other organizations. So we're not just working inside our organization. We try to broaden the view and work together as much as possible with the little means that we all have. I think that's about it for me. One last point. Mm-hmm. So far we haven't, because the team is implementing AI, so far we haven't actually implemented anything. We've done a lot of POCs, we've learned a lot. It's a long iterative process. But the whole discussion that we are now having internally is, how do we make a generic building block that could be of interest to a lot of departments within the organization? How do we make it operational? Which means basically getting it from the innovation team into the EBZ ecosystem, which is a completely different ecosystem. And that's a complicated exercise that we are having a lot of discussion on for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. So maybe Bertrand, just remind us what's the role of the GRC, just before we...
Indeed, without slides, because my turn will come.
You have a keynote.
Exactly. No, maybe just to say super briefly that if I'm here today with you, talking about the exciting experiments that we have been doing, is for two reasons. One that is specific indeed to the nature of the GRC, of the Joint Research Center, which is as old as the European Union, as old as Euratom, to be precise, because it started as a joint research capability for nuclear. So if you come to visit us in Ispra, you will see abandoned nuclear power plants. It's very, very impressive. But we diversified as the mandate of the European Union diversified, and now we are researching a lot of things from solar panels, resistance of of buildings from earthquakes. We're literally shaking them to see if they collapse in real size. It's impressive. And in digital, we also do a lot of things from cyber to advanced computing and to AI, of course. And I say, if I'm here, it's because we were very quick on the ball when the AI hype restarted, I would say, because we had all the building blocks, including the IT infrastructure and the expertise. Now, the second reason is indeed what I call the AI hype. I'm not the only one, so I'm answering partially your question. Now, because generative AI, first of all, the hype is about generative AI, yeah? Because AI is there since a long time. Those who work on anti-fraud, for example, know that these algorithm, machine learning algorithm, pattern detection algorithm are there since a long time. But what really captured our imagination of a soul is this machine that talks to us as if it was human. And on that respect, the competence center I'm leading was working with these technologies already before ChatGPT, with the previous generation. Those who know BERT and all these models from the GAFAM know that they were already there and impressive in terms of text mining applications. So we were searching that. Yeah, we identified the generative AI as a less interesting field because, you know, who cares about stochastic parrots? But then we realized that it captured, everybody's imagination, and that's how we started our project that I will talk about, which is about really putting in the hands of civil servants generative AI and understand exactly what is hype and what is really there to last. So that's a bit also to give you a sense of how we approach AI and what is our maturity in dealing with this beast.
Thank you, Bertrand. So just a few words about what's happening at the federal level. We have a national convergence plan with 9 objectives, with a big societal challenge. The first chapter is about promote trustworthy AI, so ethics in law. And the 9th one is about provide better services to citizens, so focused on the public service and administration. And within BOSA, we have an AI and new technology teams I have the honor to lead with 4 principal missions. So the AI Observatory, so you can go on the AI Observatory and you will find, for example, the mapping I showed you just before, but also the startups and scale-up in Belgium or other information related to where is AI in Belgium, so some KPIs and so forth. Then we have policy, ethics, and legal support, meaning we do participate to several debates at the international level. We do the support, for example, of the National Convergence Plan, but we also support and collaborate, and we want to reinforce that with the region. Then we have an expertise center that develops some proof of concept and helps the team that wants to define their cahier des charges, their
terms of reference?
Yeah, terms of reference of new projects. So you can come to the AI Expertise Center with a new technology, and we will test it and see what we have to look after in order to set terms of reference for a new project. For example, we did it for the chatbot. So the chatbot were based on classical technologies. Then with the hype of generative AI, we have tested what was possible with generative AI in order to have a new generation of chatbots. And then the ecosystem, so this is quite important. We have many resources in Belgium, and an ecosystem is really something that brings together the expertise from the public sector, from the private sector, from academia, but also including the civil society and the citizen in the debates. And that's why, for example, we do organize this European AI Week. That's also an opportunity to bring together the people from the different regions, the people from the different sectors, but also discuss with all the stakeholders. Then I will highlight two actions that we made. The first one is an open market consultation for the future public procurement of innovative solutions to establish a centralized AI marketplace. So AI is evolving very fast, as I was saying in the introduction. So how can we have access to the different services and products? We have to build capacity internally, but we have also to have access to the market. So we proposed to build a marketplace, and we have done an open market consultation on that idea. So we are here now identifying the business case after the open market consultation, and I can share maybe some key insights and findings we had from this questionnaire. So more than 100 participants from end user and suppliers. This is a big positive result. So the person were really interested in having an agile solution to get AI services and product, but also training on AI, also ethics and legal support, for example, also advice for infrastructure. And many have answered, and from the different federal public services, so it's widespread, finance, justice, mobility, health, social, culture, internal affairs, so many people within the public administration was interested in. The key findings: we need a centralized and compliant platform, compliant to GDPR, EU AI Act, and so forth, and emphasis on ethical AI practice. So this was really stressed in the answer we received. Streamlined vendor onboarding and robust security. So how will we add on the platform new actors through time? Scalable infrastructure and specialized training, and legal and ethical support essential. So the suppliers themselves and the user are also saying we internally need a support for ethics and legal, and make it more concrete. So the key conclusion were framework agreement with dedicated brokers seems crucial. A centralized AI marketplace can provide efficiency, cost savings, and compliance, and accelerate the AI adoption across government sector. So the next steps, I do not have the slide, but the next step is now to have terms of reference more clear, and look for someone that will provide this open market platform. A second thing I would like to stress, and this is related to the mission ethics and legal support, and this we are writing a charter for the responsible use of AI in the public sector. We've done it with the many stakeholders, so we have had public consultation, we have discussed with the civil servant, but also the companies, the citizen, and this was a whole process that will end in the coming weeks. The idea is offer best services possible while using existing technology and respecting rights and ethical value. So it's not only the fact that we have the AI Act, but it's also how we could apply it concretely. This charter will be published. You can see a first version of it on the website with several commitments and several implementation measures that the public service that will sign it will adopt. This was maybe a bit long, but let's debate. Colin, are you still online?
You're still online.
Yeah, that's great, and we can see you now. So maybe a first question, we will talk about the application and all the positive, but there are some fears. Sometimes it's not non-rational fears, but there are some fears, there are some risks and some barriers. What do you see as the biggest risk and barriers towards the adoption of AI? Hans?
Well, it's not so much risks that I want to discuss, it's what I see as to be the two biggest challenges for using AI in government. There is one challenge which I would call the speed gap, which is the difference between the speed in which AI technology is evolving. By the time that we understand a particular technology, it has already moved on to something new, or by the time that we have selected a particular model, it's already been replaced by a better or bigger model. So the speed of AI technology development is fundamentally too fast for a government to adapt. Sometimes they make the comparison of AI is moving at a Ferrari speed, and we government are sitting on our horse trying to catch up with the Ferrari, which is not going to work. So that's a first gap, a speed gap. And what we've learned from the latest Digimeter survey is that you have a number of digital gaps, the classical inclusion gap and access to infrastructure gap and skills gap. There is a new gap emerging, which we call an efficiency gap, which means that you have a number of people who are willing to use AI, who are proficient and capable of effectively using AI, and they become far more efficient than people who do not. So what you see is that these people become 2, 3 times, if they're programmers, they become even 10 times more proficient than somebody who is not using AI. So I'm really afraid that we will see this efficiency gap also emerge in our civil servants. Some of them will be capable and willing of using AI, and others will stay behind and stay a long distance behind. So these are the 2 biggest challenges for government, this speed gap and this emerging efficiency gap.
Very interesting. Do you have some comments? Colin, Christine,
Yes,
on that? Yeah.
I mean, I also audit the use of AI and other algorithms in the Dutch government. So, I mean, we have a norm list that has 55 different risks. So, all of them are important, but they are grouped into 4 different domains. And I think that can give some food for thought. So there are definitely some governance related risks, right? So how is your organization equipped with governing AI, right? Is there a good process? Do you know what you're using it for? Do you have the right expertise? These kind of risks. There's also, of course, the technical aspects of the quality of the model itself. So do you know how good the model is performing? Do you know how good the AI system is working? Do you know the quality of the data, right? So these are all things that you should understand and take into account. But there's, of course, also the privacy-related risks, right? Do you adhere to relevant privacy norms? Do you inform people in the right way? Are you allowed to use the data that you want to use? And last, and that's often forgotten in the focus of AI, but we also check on really basic general information security requirements, right? Can someone tamper with the system? Can someone easily modify it? And of course, these are quite important risks, especially in a high-stake government environment. You don't want someone tampering with an algorithm or an AI system that you don't know about. So these are some of the core areas that at least we check on.
Okay, regarding the risk that Hans was stressing, meaning that there will be very, very efficient civil servants and people that are not trained will be left behind. That's the risk. There is some requirement about AI literacy in the AI Act. Have you observed something in the Netherlands, for example?
So at the moment, I mean, with our audits, not yet, because the requirement, of course, only kicked in last month. So we haven't taken that into consideration in the audits yet. However, we do check on the expertise in the organization, but that is more on a general level as it has been in the past. We haven't checked, right? So is every employee having the right skill sets? We have not done that. But having adequate expertise in the organization to work with the AI system, we checked that in the past. But I think it was a very interesting perspective that Hans showed, right? Maybe a 2-speed, pickup. I think that does show the urgency for enough AI literacy and also competency within the civil service. Yeah.
Christine, will you react on that?
Yeah, because that creates an additional risk of being too dependent on all what the suppliers are telling you. If you don't have the competencies in-house, you have difficulty in really knowing what's what. I concur with everything that has been said so far. I would add as additional barriers, at least, there's a change management issue. If we don't, we really need to rethink, I think, in the long term, the processes, the culture of how we work within the public sector. If we don't want to end up with an AI of which people are going to say it's just a bad fix from the IT department, it doesn't do what it has been what it has been promising. And another risk that I personally see, there's such a tsunami on regulation coming. Now we're talking AI, but there's additional AI regulation coming, and there's going to be chip acts and quantum regulation and cybersecurity stuff that I really wonder if today you're a legal expert or a DPO and you've been studying the GDPR for all these years. How are you going to cope with, and it's another skills matter, but it's an important one.
There are legals in the room. We'll ask them, but they work hard, I know. Bertrand, do you want to add something? Yeah.
Maybe to concur and even amplify some of the points that they've been made. So in our generative AI platform, we have more than 10,000 users, and we observed exactly, Hans, as what you described, and it's even worse than that, I would say, because it's a hype, right? So they are the early adopters who are into it, who are reading, listening podcasts about it. They become more experts than we are, and they teach us, oh, this is so exciting, this RAG method and so on. And then there are those who just joining, and then okay, we say, we'll not talk about hallucinations again. We have dealt with that 1 year ago, but they weren't there, right? So there is really this problem of the people who are, by maybe in essence not the most technophile, but that they feel they missed the bus, and then they can. This is how a counter hype starts. So this is, I think, something we need really to take care of, because in the end, the goal is not to sell AI to our colleagues. The goal is to become altogether more efficient. So that's. One thing that is important, and indeed the skills and the IT skills, so that for a public service we are not dependent on the suppliers. I think it's very important. If you scale it up, it's also a big word, a matter of strategic autonomy. But this is there, and their regulation is part of it. So it's true. It's a mix of change management, people, technology, and legal. But I think we are good in Europe, and especially in Belgium, to deal with complexity. So maybe we will go upwards with this challenge.
Thank you. Hans, regarding your first challenge, meaning the market goes so fast that it's difficult to make decision and to integrate some technology because it has already changed or something like that.
It's not just the compliance and establishing the correct governance. You have to move at the same speed as AI technology is moving, and that's a big.
What do you think about the marketplace concept we suggest to be agile and?
Well, the marketplace is a very nice concept, because then you would have some pre-selected solutions, so that would already help. But as I said, this marketplace will have a big challenge in defining these solutions, because you define them 1 week and the next week something better appears, and then to have them compliant with all the regulation that is there is going to be a big problem.
Yeah.
And indeed, change management is a big challenge. But as I said, government moves at a different speed than the market moves. Let alone the AI market is now moving.
And do you think we can have a bottom-up strategy or a top-down strategy? A bottom-up strategy with identifying the use case and trying to develop, and then trying to scale it. So we can discuss about the scaling of the proof of concept. Or another one is identifying what would be the building blocks, and then try to provide building blocks application, I don't know, for matchmaking, for example. Is it possible to have a real AI strategy?
Mm-hmm.
Could we have an AI first government, for example? What would be your insight about that?
Well, in the Flemish government, we try the two. If you look in our AI playbook, we say you have to do both things. You have to rethink your own organization and the way your organization works and provides the services. So that's more top-down. And more bottom-up, you have to look at what your civil servants are already doing with AI, and to learn from that. Because if you just put some people together in a room and say, okay, invent some AI use cases, if they have no experience with AI, it's very hard. And we don't have the time to wait too long. We had the same approach of, we're going to adapt to digitalization. And then it took us, 10, 15, 20 years to do digitalization, and most of the things we have done is digitizing existing administrative procedures, not rethink procedures. So now we're saying for a second time we're going to rethink everything. Yeah, okay, this time it's even more possible to rethink everything, but rethinking everything is a very big challenge, for all of us.
Christine, do you have a comment about?
We're doing the same in a way, bottom up, top down. With actually the task force is more top down, and the projects and the business cases and the real use cases is really bottom up. What I would very warmly wish for, and there's certainly a role for AI for Belgium and for BOSA to play. That is that each time that you talk to people from other administrations, everybody's doing the same thing. We don't know it from each other, and everybody stays a bit in his own silo. And if we could solve that problem, we're already working from our innovation team with a number of people who are here in the room who do not work for Binnenlandse Zaken. But we should really do more of that and share more knowledge and try to move a bit faster. And by just doing everything in our own corner, that's not going to be helpful in the long run.
Okay. Colin, do you want to add something? Or?
I can really relate to some of the points that were made, especially on the learning, but also the scaling. So one of the questions we also asked in our inventory was to give some kind of appraisal, very simple, right? So how well does the system work from 1 to 5? And what was quite surprising to see from that inventory is that there was a quite positive opinion about the discontinued AI use cases. They were often seen as relatively successful. They were doing what they were expecting to do. But then still, for some reason, and I don't know, we didn't research that why, but for some reason, then they discontinued, right? So I think there's still quite some room to figure out. Okay, so if it's a successful case, and you have done a good job mitigating the risks, why doesn't it scale, right? So that is, of course, still a question. And if we do want to move forward, we do need to also, use the good cases, right? So.
Just before giving the floor to the audience for their question, I have a question about the communication towards the citizen. How can we explain that the public service is using AI? Is there a challenge in there? How could we manage this challenge? Thank you, Bertrand. I'm asking the questions.
Maybe I can say a few words. In the very first phase of our project, GPT at DRC and then GPT at EC, we were very careful not to communicate too much because we saw exactly that there's this hype and so on and so forth. So in the course of the project, we handed over our let's say, research and innovation results to our IT department, Digital Services Directorate General, and then they made GPT at EC, which was more a corporate tool. So they went to the press and the newspaper Politico, if you know it. The day after it was communicated, had a very sarcastic say hail to the AI bureaucrat. So the title was sarcastic, but the contents was rather good because it was saying that we did the things right in terms of indeed personal data protection, not just buying some stuff from some American companies and giving away all your data and all EU secrets. So we don't do that, just to be clear. And it was recognized in the article. So in the end, I think it's a matter of do things right, and then keep low profile. And when you're sure of your facts, you go to the citizen and say, see, we've been more efficient, we've done things right, we fulfilled better our mission without simply, bragging. We could have bragged, we could have said, hey guys, look, we do fancy things here, but we waited. I think it's important, this honest broker and serious way of dealing with things.
Yeah, Christine?
You have the classical argument, of course. AI is going to help us create better service, better policy making, better decisions. So we're going to make the citizen trust us, and AI makes us, on the other hand, vulnerable. If there are cyber attacks, if there's fake news and disinformation, people are no longer going to trust their government. And I wanted to make the link to yesterday, because there was this remark made by, and I'm going to consult my notes here, Mona Shamas. She made a very interesting observation. I was really impressed when she said trust is not that important because you can't know who to trust. There's too much information floating around. You cannot know anymore what is true and what is not. So instead of trust, it should be about truth, what is true and what is not true. And to be able to distinguish between that, you have to learn people to think critically. I found it a very important point. It's something that...
Yes, I do agree, fully agree that critical thinking is essential in this era, and we will have a specific debate on that tomorrow, for example, so how to get trained with AI and how to stay informed with AI. So please, if you are interested, follow that. But this gives not really the path for public services here on how to do in the communication. So yeah, we must do efforts in education, in critical thinking and so forth. But as user or deployer of AI solution, how will we communicate to get, sorry, but trust is still important, and trust is towards the public services is related to the truth it provides. So yeah,
as we are now not yet deploying solutions to the citizens, I think the first focus that we have now is to create trust and awareness inside the organization and help the people who need to work with the tools to trust the tools and not to be afraid of losing their jobs or not knowing what it's all about, or I don't dare touch that or whatever. That's the first thing that we are doing, trust within the organization.
Okay, so I suggest we have a first round of questions before we have the second keynote and talk really about the application and Didier Cornel.
Yes, thank you. I totally agree with what you said, Christine Coppens. Totally, I think it's very important to have contacts with other organizations. And after the meeting, I will contact you to see how we can organize something with the FPS Social Security. And also, I used to say we have, I think, thousands of ICT specialist public servants in Belgium, probably thousands, certainly hundreds. And this is totally crazy that the main thing that they are doing is buying private services from private companies. And maybe one comment about your proposal. I think, but Nathalie, maybe you can correct me, that there is nobody invited during this week from the Kruispunt Sociale Zekerheid, Bank voor de Sécurité Sociale, or the SMALS. Could be useful to have it, to be in contact with them. And one
Correct. That's not correct. So.
They were. Okay, that's great.
Okay. Yeah.
And then maybe one comment about trust. I'm a civil servant since 35 years, and sometimes I see more and more public services making their own advertisement about things who are, let's say, not really to trust. So it would be important that public organizations avoid to make, washing and to speak about only about facts and not about what they would like to be.
Okay. Thank you for the comments, but there was no precise question. Another question here.
Hello everyone. I'm Nicolas Blanc. I'm part member of the GPI, Global Partnership on AI in the Future of Work. Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here today. I would like to know your opinion about Microsoft Copilot, because it's very complicated to integrate it in a strategy. It's complicated to integrate it in a marketplace, for example. We don't know what to do with that. So it's very complicated for employees to use it. So I would like to know, maybe by an experiment, something like that before, or not to use it. I'm not sure. So I would like to know what you think about this thing. Thank you very much.
Okay, could you explain what is GPI? So the Global Partnership on AI.
Today it's integrated in the OECD. Now it's NCD. It's a group of experts, and we work on regulation about AI at international level. And it's include maybe 29 countries in the world. And so we try.
And there's several working groups. So
we are 4 working groups about work, about safety, something like that, and it's interesting. But today it's complicated because now we've been working with the OECD, so we will see in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So Hans, because that was planned for the next part, but we can begin.
The Copilot question. Yeah. I was already afraid that somebody was going to ask that question. So we've done a pilot study in the Flemish government on the Copilot use. So we had 200 people from about 20 different organizations use Copilot to see what was the usefulness of Copilot and what are the kind of different user profiles, because you can make a clear distinction between IT people, administrative people, policy people. They make use of Copilot in different ways. So that's the first important thing to consider. What we've noticed is, first of all, that people, I think it was 63%, were actually pleased by the benefits of using Copilot. That they saved, I think it was 12 minutes or so per day, which is not that terribly impressive, but it already pays for the cost of Copilot. If you can save these 12 minutes per day and not waste them on a coffee break, so what we've decided as a Flemish government is that we are going to, we have now had an agreement with Microsoft for 10,000 licenses of Copilot, and we're now exploring all the issues involved, the data protection impact assessment. So we will have to be we will have to not only have our guidelines on the use of publicly accessible generative AI, but we'll probably have to have guidelines on the correct use of Copilot as well. Use that button, don't use that button, use it for this kind of information, or use it not for this kind of purpose. So that's something that we certainly need. And on the long run, but that's a personal opinion, we will indeed have to look at the issue of strategic autonomy. Yeah? If we all start using Copilot, an American product from an American company, I don't have to tell you what the risk might be in the future of becoming so dependent on Copilots. And we will face the risk if we start using Copilot on a large scale, we will have a use which is something which I think everybody underestimates, which I call the decommissioning of an AI system. Once you start using an AI system and you start using it on a large scale, and a number of people depend on it for how they work and how they think, if all of a sudden you have to replace Copilot by something different, preferably a European equivalent, you will have to untrain a lot of people. You have to decommission. You have to be very careful about taking out of production an AI system that everybody has become dependent on. So let's first wait and see and how this Copilot large-scale rollout happens, what kind of training that we have to do there to have the necessary AI literacy, and then I'm more than willing to share our experiences and our guidelines on Copilot use with you.
Bertrand, you wanted to react?
Yes, briefly. First of all, because we had also a pilot study on the use of Copilot in the European Commission. First of all, very personally, I'm a bit puzzled by the marketing of Microsoft, because when someone says Copilot, I never know if they mean the chatbot, the ChatGPT-like thing, or the integration of AI a bit everywhere in M635, or the very fancy videos I saw where they promised me that AI will organize my meetings, for which I'm ready to pay €100 per month with my own budget. So I guess we are talking about the middle one. Indeed, it's complicated because it's a bit everywhere and it's a bit nowhere. What I can say is that, yeah, we have also an ongoing pilot. What we realized, at least that's what I heard from those who did that study, and a bit the high-level governance, because in the Commission, we avoid also duplication by having a very stringent governance body that decides who can invest in what. Apparently, they compared basic Copilot, I would say, with the kind of solutions we've developed that are more strategically autonomous, with running around open source LLMs on our own hardware. And it's much less costly to avoid Copilot. This, what is it, 30 euro per user per month. So it's also another message I think that is important to pass, because if we listen to the big companies, it's complicated. Don't bother, give us your money, your data, everything will go fine. It's complicated to build AI from scratch, but there are ways, and open source is there to help.
Okay, a last question before I promised to the person that was behind there. Yeah, okay.
Hello. Yes, I have two questions. One you started answering. It was about sovereignty. The fact that we use American tools, isn't it time for Europe to develop something? What is doing the Commission about that? To really develop at least European companies, and not just AI acts that we never sure what is completely respected. And the other question I had is about what you said about the speed of evolution of AI. Aren't we still at a stage where it's very important for Europe to develop research, develop expertise, understandings, and being able to build the tools? But isn't it sometimes maybe too early to implement those tools, as they are changing so fast? Like, my question is a bit like, isn't it also because it's just the beginning, that so we have a new tool like every month nearly, but after a few months, a few years, you will have a stabilization with more mature and more let's say mature models, and then it will be time to implement some tools. I'm not sure if I made my question very clear, and I'm not an expert, so it's really a question.
Colin, do you want to react?
I can try, because there were a lot of different points reached. So first, going to the question of sovereignty. So with this study, we did not check the sovereignty related aspects on the use of AI. However, this January, we released also an audit report on the use of cloud services in the Dutch central government. And that really focuses exactly on sovereignty-related questions. And I mean, without giving you a full overview of the report, it was quite concerning finding. So a lot of public cloud use was being adopted without really any risk assessments. Very important state processes are dependent on cloud services, and in most cases from the big tech companies. So the last months, at least in the Netherlands, has been really a big debate on what kind of services should we put in a cloud, which kind of services should we host ourselves. I think this debate quickly relates to the use of AI as well. So I think it's definitely something to consider, of course, in your risk assessments and your decisions to use a certain tool or another certain tool. I think in the end, it still really depends on the organization using it, but I can imagine it's going to be a growing importance moving forward.
Okay, Colin, thank you. This is a good transition, because we will have the keynote and how you have chosen to adopt generative AI within Europe. But I see Alain Coletta from the AI Expertise Center at the federal level that is asking me for a question. So, do you have a question from the audience or
it's
online?
more for Hans. I would like to rebound on the first comment that we had about many public services having to buy private licenses, and also the fact that you mentioned that we should probably wait on the use of Copilot. But I was wondering, what are you currently advising people in your organization? Are you telling them to wait and see, or are you telling them to use free solutions? Or are you actually buying licenses for people to go and try it? Or what's the strategy right now?
What we basically said is read the conclusions from our AI, from our Copilot pilot study, and you have to decide for yourself whether you think it's useful in your organization to adopt Copilot or not. We're not making or giving any advice yet on preference for a private industry solution or an open source solution. I can imagine that in the future that will be something that we will have to have some point of view about, but at the same time, I don't think we can afford to wait until the market stabilizes and AI technology somehow slows down, because I think that for the next couple of years, it's not going to slow down. So if you don't do anything with it now, you will be so far behind, and you will never have the experience of working with AI, certainly not as a civil servant, that you'll be hopelessly behind.
Okay, thank you. So I suggest to give the floor now to Bertrand. Can you switch on the screen? Colin, stay there, but we will see the slide of Bertrand. This is quite impressive, I would say, Bertrand, because you decided to develop some tools to use generative AI in the European Commission, and yeah, it's your turn, you know, on the line. And you have more than 15,000 people using it. So,
thank you.
Can you explain us what's happening there?
With great pleasure. Two practical questions. First, how are we doing with time? Is it okay if I do 10 minutes?
It's okay. It's perfectly okay. You have the time that was planned.
Okay.
So you have
perfect.
10 to 12, 15 minutes.
And next, can I stand so that we change the dynamic? It's 1 hour.
You can stand if you want.
I can stand. You can stand.
Okay,
and sit down
can
if
be
you're
there.
tired
Do you want us down the stage?
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
I can get here. Okay. Yeah. So maybe I can't resist answering very briefly the questions there as well about is it the right time to invest? I always like to compare the AI of today with the internet of 1995. For those who were there, it was ugly pages with animated GIFs, and you were never sure of finding what you want. But still, internet is there, and our governments are heavily depending on it. So I think it's urgent indeed to invest, but indeed knowing the limitations and the caveats. So that's one thing. All right, so what I would like to talk to you briefly about, so 10 minutes, 10 slides, no death by PowerPoint, don't worry. It's about a real full-scale experiment that we did. It's more than an experiment. People are already working as we speak, a lot of them, and doing their job more efficiently thanks to AI. So, first of all, we mentioned that already a lot of time, AI Act, the DSA, DMA, and so on and so forth. It's important to say we are not just any organization in this space. We are the one who tries to regulate AI. And I can tell you that people get increasingly crazy when you use the word regulate AI. I think they have been nicely brainwashed because it's what about innovation then? But who say that regulation and innovation are the opposite? I mean, did the people show that they wanted to be electrocuted when we introduced electricity in the household? No, they wanted dishwashers and artificial lighting, right? So I think regulation is not a bad word. I hope that in a civil servants audience I will not get stones thrown at me for that. So I said what the Joint Research Center is. We are there to provide knowledge and science to our policy masters. And I liked also the fact that we heard already a lot today, trustworthy AI, right? I think this is an important concept in terms of AI you can trust. That means that you can indeed trust it's truthful, but also that it's fit for purpose. So that's why I like this cartoon as well. Especially we are pragmatic. We are here to spend taxpayers' money in being more efficient. That means that it has also to be fit for purpose, right? So that's the reason why we are there. So everything I'm gonna say is written in a paper, publicly available. So that's the QR code. You can also Google it and so on and so forth. It's a preprint, so it's being under review by Technology and Society Journal. So maybe they will hate it and it will disappear. So download it quickly. But for the moment, we are happy and it's downloaded a lot, and that would be a way to continue the conversation. Our full-scale experiment, we call it GPT at GRC because it is what it means. It was this idea very early on in the process. I'm talking 2 years ago, so really in the middle of the ChatGPT hype, to provide safe and compliant access to large language models to colleagues. The first motivation, of course, for us researching the risks and limitations and opportunities of artificial intelligence was simply to indeed have a test facility. But very quickly, colleagues wanted to use it, and therefore we said, okay, then our users, our guinea pigs, and then we will do research on how people use it. Fair enough, and this is how we ended up with 15,000 users, no help desk, my teams blinking all the time, saying, Bertrand, I have a question. Where is the button to upload my files? No, I mean I don't reply anymore, but that's the idea. Then there was this idea, very consistent with what was said, that there are initiatives here and there, and we wanted also to be kind of federative, to be the place where people come. That's why, as you will see, it's a platform where people can run their own use cases and plug and use the API and so on and so forth. So kind of, the first innovator takes it all. We wanted to be that in the commission, and it worked very well. And then there were other initiatives. I said, for example, GPT at EC, which is a bit our production spin-off, I would say. So that sounds very sexy, but it isn't. You can see it's a very unsexy ChatGPT clone, but it's how public service needs to be, right? Unsexy, but quite trustworthy. It is a system that doesn't leak any piece of data or personal data to third parties. One big piece of the project, because as I said, we were so lucky that we had already GPUs and the engineers that can run these kind of things to run a large language model in-house. So for us, this was piece of cake. No, I'm bragging. But the difficult part was to make accept to our governance, so IT security, information security, personal data protection, that we were not doing anything wrong. And that was a very creative constraint, because we managed to have an architecture that really is full of guarantees. And that's why we have even a sensitive non-classified mode where we can, it's not classified like in the confidential and above, EUCI, as we all call it in Europe, but sensitive is already quite high in the information security. Again, unsexy but interesting still, because unlike the platforms, the commercial platforms, where Microsoft will tell you, you don't need anything else than Copilot, come on, or OpenAI will tell you, but ChatGPT is the best, so why bother? Here you have different models, both commercial models, in that case it's third party and not guaranteed for sensitive non-classified, or the models that we can run in-house, and there are many of them. The two champions for the moment are being Llama, the meta model, where they have, interestingly, an open weight strategy. Maybe it's thanks to Yann Lequin, which is very advocating for that. And of course, the European champion, we were talking about strategic autonomy before, Mistral. Mistral has released Mistral Small recently, and we run it also on our data center. We have also Quencoder. It's Chinese, yes, it's Chinese, but very good at coding. So we use it for software engineering use cases, because it's good. So we run it locally. Normally, an LLM cannot act against you, so that should be okay. We were talking also about the things advancing quickly. I think with this platform and with the interest we managed to attract, we managed to be more or less afloat with at least what is going on, what is hot out there. Also, because, as I say, we are researching the thing, so we are a bit obliged to really be state of the art in terms of scientific research. So retrieval augmented generation, we do that. We do research on that, on strategies, on sectoral applications. We have in the GRC people who published scientific papers on health-related retrieval augmented generation, because terminology in health is very tricky. Also multilingual, because we're Europe, or all these kind of aspects, because, as I said, RAG is cool, but most of the applications of there are kind of naive RAG, so I will not get into the details, but it is not guaranteed that the AI model really understands what you uploaded, because they hate PDF as much as I hate PDF, so that's another issue. And then we are getting agentic now, and that's also another interesting turn. We probably have no time for that, but we can talk about that after coffee or whatever, because it's also the next game changer. So like a bit Web 2.0 in my comparison with Web, and there are interesting standards emerging that as a public sector we could endorse, maybe. So as I said, a lot of users, a lot of research teams as well, because we have the application programming interface. So with that, it's also utilizing the LLM as part of research for generating, for example, silver standard text corpora for training smaller models, or for expanding multilingual aspects of systems. And then there is all the information extraction. I said earlier that I come from the natural language processing research field. There, LLM is really a a game changer. It costs a lot more than running a good old BERT, but it costs you a good prompt, and you have a new text processor, almost zero shot. We did among these users some surveys, and it's also consistent with what was said earlier. I think it was you, Hans, and also you, Nathanael, that people feel already now using the simple web UI more efficient. Those who embraced this AI revolution were part of the first train, I would say. 41% of the respondents, of course there is a bias, they responded, so they're part of the game, and find it extremely positive on their productivity, and 43 somewhat positive. Also, that's what people say, that's also what people do, and the usage statistics are very, very interesting in terms of users that use it every day or every week. It's huge in proportion. So that's very interesting. So very quickly, two very visual findings from our paper. First of all, it helped us to have a concept about the type of use cases for Gen AI. Again, we talk AI, but what do we mean by that? As I said, I've already put apart a very interesting part of AI, which is I would say the numbers AI, to make it more simple. But as I said, data analytics through pattern matching and predictive analytics. But if we are here in Gen AI, we saw three levels that correspond to different levels of technicality, I would say. Yeah. So the level 1 really corresponds to the ChatGPT-like usage, and already a lot can be done there when you can start uploading your files. We also enable very recently what we call thematic spaces, where everyone can, without any technical background, upload a bunch of files, put a standing instruction, and then resell it as their own chatbots to the colleagues. So it's really very, very cheap chatbots, but some are very powerful. Again, there are limitations in the way retrieval augmented generation is done and how these files are digested, but this is for us to have fun with some tricky problems. The level 2 is what can be done with API. I just mentioned some examples, so we'll not get back there. And level 3 for me is the one that is harder to comprehend, and that's also where a lot of the added value will go, is when you have really specialized conversational tools that are really designed and optimized for a given use case. One that I hear very often in the public sector is what I call data analytics in plain English. We are a lot of us needs to deal with statistics, with interpreting charts and all these kind of things, generating charts, and not all of us are data scientists. Although a good Excel user is for me a data scientist, so I'm very relaxed with the definition. So I think as civil servants, if we could have a virtual data scientist at disposal, that would make us much more stronger, and again evidence-based and truthful in our analysis. For me, building such systems is tricky but not impossible. Evaluating them will be the challenge. So evaluate is really what I want to get. Especially because when we also conceptualize a kind of map of use cases, so that when you have a colleague that comes and say, oh, I have an idea, can AI do that? At least we can say, okay, your idea is not bad, but you are here. Are you sure you want to go there? So by AI IQ, it's a fancy way to say the complexity of the system from fully fledged agentic that nobody yet truly has to the basic ask an LLM way of approaching things, and auditability low and high. So why auditability, and what do we mean by that? So it was based on organizational transformation theory, where they explain that there are different, I would say, components in a change process, and one of them was to say that the change has to be understandable to get adhesion from the people, basically. So it's quite a people component. And we found it very inspiring for AI use cases, because the more AI will get clever, the less we will be able to figure out if it was right or wrong. right? Already know a lot of hallucination cases are reported just because you guys are experts and you know when the machine is bullshitting you. But what it will be when it will analyze all the data of your organization and then figure it out, do something statistical that you don't understand, and then tell you, okay, no, then you have to refuse that file. That's it. That's very complicated. So again, evaluation is the name of the game in our view. What next? Because it doesn't stop there, or already it's a good milestone, and it's why we decided to publish that paper. But we are not finishing the project, although, as I said, the mass market now will be by our colleagues from the Digital Services Directorate General, DIGIT. But we want to continue researching specifically on trustworthy AI system. So as I said, evaluation of agentic AI system is one of the areas where we see research needs to be done. And we have also interesting research on alignment. So really, is our model fit for purpose? Will the machine stab us in the back? Then agentic cognitive Gen AI systems, so cognition, the more we move forward, the more we see that the reasoning component of AI systems is getting important. So I like to say it talks, it knows, it reasons, but not the way we do. So talking, we all see it, we are all bluffed. Knowing the RAG, we know now that it's complicated. But reasoning is also a very, very tricky point. I will not develop now, but we want to research on that. And then we want to invest in these level 3 use cases because that's where we will learn the more. So we are engaging, for example, with our communication directorate general to think about what would make an LLM a good spokesperson, for example, avoiding tricky questions. I have funny stories for that also for the coffee. And another, of course, serving ourselves. So for a scientist, you have probably already seen deep search and all these kind of things. There's very impressive progress also in scientific tasks with Gen AI, and more purely administrative tasks. There's also recurring use case about can AI check eligibility for my 5,000 requests, or can Gen AI help me with this public consultation where I yielded a lot of information and so on and so forth. So this is more the business side. So you see there you have really engineering, research, and business all together. And yes, very quick because we have more time to talk, but that's what this GPT at GRC about and where we are, where we go.
Thank you. Bertrand, yeah, you can sit down. Give me the clicker. Yeah. Okay, that's quite impressive. So, who is using generative AI in the room? Yeah, less than half of the people. And who is finding it useful for their work? Yeah, it's almost the same. Yeah. Okay, so and why do the people that do not use generative AI do not use generative AI? So you will after that. So Hans, Christine, Colin, do you want to react to this presentation? Yeah, we can switch to Colin.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit jealous because I am not allowed to use any generative AI in my work, so I'm I'm a bit jealous at the tool. I would love to also experiment with it, but at the moment, everything I do is still with my own hands and mind.
Hans, you published the
guidelines. We have taken a different approach in the Flemish government, and we've said that we know that there are a lot of technical problems and legal problems, which the technical problems will hopefully be solved someday with large language models, although I doubt that they will ever achieve 100% reliability, but at least we can get something which is close to human reliability. So, and then there are legal problems which have to be solved, copyright and other issues which are very tricky to solve. But we've said that, okay, we're going to not wait for these problems to be solved. We want to experiment with the generative AI now because we want to know what it can be used for and what it is useful for. And that's why we said we're going to draft these guidelines on the use of publicly accessible generative AI, because we already saw that our civil servants were using that anyway. Yeah? You have this, what you might call shadow AI. Yeah? People are using AI in their workplace without you knowing it. So it's better to have at least some guidelines, that they have some idea of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. Does everybody follow those guidelines? I can only hope so, because we have no real way of verifying that. But that's the approach that we've taken in the Flemish government.
There's two things. On the one hand, within the organization, we use the Copilot version within the network, the enterprise protected version, of which we can only hope that it's actually protected, which is just a legal way of putting it. But in our lab, and that's where the whole friction starts, in our lab we have been experimenting with really literally tens and tens and tens of different open source LLMs. We've played around with RAG, we've done stuff with PDFs, we've been thinking about curated content and have specific models, the ones that are good in this language, or good with figures, or good with code, or good with, which is fun because the models get smaller and smaller, and there's lots of things you can do. But then if you want to put it into, really offer it to your organization, that's again the discussion. Yes, that's a Microsoft-based organization. We have to put something that was made air-walled in a lab condition with open source tools in an Azure cloud environment. And that's where we each time get blocked. So in that sense, yes, we have the Copilot version, the official license for the people who work. And we used, by the way, we reused Hans's guidelines, and we gave it a IBZ sauce and published them on our own for our own colleagues. And as you say, you can only hope that people follow them, because there's no way of knowing.
Okay. What's the operating system in the European institution? Because you have your own server to deploy that solution.
Yes, it's for the user. It's web-based, so it's not really integrated, and we have hybrid hosting. So that means that we host either on-premise or on the cloud. So on-premise, indeed, it's costly, but again, considering the strategic matters, I mean, a good server is 500,000 euros. So it's 5 Teslas, I would say. It's a lot, but compared to how many schools or prisons we can refurbish for that money, but it's not a lot for a public organization that really wants to invest in AI. But we also use, indeed, we have Azure framework contracts and AWS framework contracts, and there are ways to play a bit agilely with that. And also, what we noticed, it's not a surprise, but hosting an LLM on the cloud costs much more in the end, because it's a bit of a specificity, but you need the LLM to be loaded 24/7. You cannot wait for the user to click to load the LLM in memory. So that means that you need to mobilize 24/7 a costly machine just for running the LLM. So the solution is then to have many users, including overnight the API users, who kind of make the machine. But then if you manage to really use heavily your machine, it's much less expensive than the cloud. It reverts the logic. We have been brainwashed, I know, if you are in IT since years. But
just to be sure that we understand all, what's available at the moment, it's a clone of ChatGPT that works on a server with Llama. Is there something, because you talked about different levels, so are every European civil servant developing his own agent at this moment, or where are you concretely?
Yeah, concretely, we are very far. So that part of providing a ChatGPT compliant, safe, autonomous, and privacy-friendly solution to all the colleagues to avoid indeed shadow AI. We also have guidelines that you can only put publicly available data on a third-party tool. So still, you're allowed to, for example, we don't do image generation. If you want to illustrate with a fancy image, then you can go to, but it has to be publicly available information. So your event is public, it's fine, it's cool, but otherwise not. Now, so that's the basic part, which is already handed over to our IT department. But then, as I said, there is the API, and it's used a lot for research on AI and with AI. Just to give an example, we have colleagues working more in the, I would say, binnenzaken field on counterterrorism, and they use LLMs. They process a lot of news that we collect online to extract terrorist-related events from news with LLMs as we speak. So this is research-grade use case, I would say. But this is just to give an example of what can be done with LLMs that was done in the past with smaller language models, but now it works even better and faster. So all that to say that this is the continuation. And as I said, now we are exploring the frontiers of RAG, and we are implementing a platform for running agents, because the next step will be agents. So in a very nutshell, an agent is more than a large language model, because the large language model is the parrot, if you want. So it can repeat what it has seen, and it has seen a lot of things, and it can recombine it. So it's really impressive. But in an agent, you add a more reasoning capability, which is break a big problem into smaller problems and fix them one by one with the tools that are available. And with the tools that are available is very interesting, because the good old interoperability, metadata, shared data, shared tools, APIs, and so on, is back. And this time it will work, I swear. We will try.
And, yeah. Do you have measured the impact of such an adoption? I mean, do the management notice something? Is the productivity augmented? It took time for them to notice. Especially, I did the stupid mistake. I started every sentence with the R word. You know the R word in public services? Resources. Never tell that word in front of a manager. It's really bad. Indeed, I said we need more resources. Everyone is using our tools and so on and so forth. I say, hold on, little boy. You're not the only big project in the house. So we spend a lot of energy surveying and presenting the use cases and things like that. And no, they like us. We still don't have resources, but they like us. No, I stopped being funny, but. I think the measurement of the impact is important. It's more for economists. Also, what we see from the literature, because they are very, very serious researchers in that field, is that the difficulty, which is also a change, because again, it's rationality back into a public service management, is that to measure impact, you need to measure the task with and without. So as you said, really in seconds, right? So I don't know, justice is there for, do rulings. I mean, I'm not good at that, but you need to see business processes and where the efficiencies are. And I think this is the tough part, right? Okay, but the adoption in itself proves that it is useful. That's your point.
Yes, the adoption, the usage, and the many testimonials. So we are more qualitative for the moment. As I said, I was a bit positively shocked. I mean, 86% of the users from a tool saying that this tool made them more efficient. I've never seen that in public IT in my life. And it's not me bragging, because I didn't invent LLMs. No.
I've seen a study from MIT, Harvard, Wharton, saying that the improvements are more important if the people are trained with the use of LLMs and generative AI. So what's the onboarding you do propose?
Sorry, I will let the floor, but that's a fascinating thing. And I really like it because I spend a lot of time with users on this kind of events, talking about the tool and so forth. What I really like about this Gen AI revolution is that we're all equipped to understand, because it mimics human intelligence. Again, it knows, it reasons, and it talks, but not exactly the way we do. But then when people are equipped with very simple concepts, like the context window, like how retrieval augmented generation works, which is basically giving a Google search engine to a virtual colleague, then people are very well equipped to face that technology. So I think the learning curve is not so steep, or at least the first plateau is very easy to reach. I think for organizational transformation, which is not my field, that's very important to have this kind of basic usage of Gen AI. For me, these are the two key messages. Basic usage is achievable by anyone, because you can comprehend human intelligence, you can comprehend Gen AI. And the other thing is all we said about demystification and dependency from big vendors. Yeah.
Christine, you wanted to react? No? Okay. Any reaction? Or, yeah, Colin?
So I was quite curious. I mean, I can imagine many of the audience and also other listeners online, they might want to know a little bit more about the replicability of this initiative. I mean, you mentioned, for instance, 500,000 in server capacity. Well, that may not seem like a lot, maybe, but actually, I think for many organizations, they don't have this money laying around. So what can you advise other public administrations that want to replicate this RAG approach? Like, is this something that is only available for high budgets, or can you start small? I'm also personally very curious, but I can imagine others might be stuck between not having the resources to do it themselves, but also not being allowed or wanting to use external parties.
Our Belgian motto Our Belgian motto is, stronger united. So I think this is really what it. And as I said, technically, it's the good news is that the marginal cost afterwards is very weak. The investment is quite impressive. Huh? I'm not downplaying it, and I know we're lucky to have important research budgets in the European Union. But as I said, compared to the money to refurbish a school or a jail, I'm quite aware of what it costs. But again, you can really make the investment worthwhile if you have enough users, enough use cases, and if you connect. So that's maybe a starting point, to have that mindset that making autonomous Gen AI is achievable, that it's an investment, but that you will learn so much in the process that will equip you for the next waves. Huh? So because that concern, we heard it, right? That it's going so fast. But if you have the essentials, if you have the fundamentals, I think you're not in the race to win it, but you are, at least following the bus. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So we have time for one or two questions before the final question to the panel. Yes? Here.
Hi, Raf Ganzeman, EY, so non-public sector, sorry. We have two productivity tools that we use internally. We have EYQ, which we build ourselves to relate to our internal data, and then we have Copilot that we use, which is more to enhance productivity related to Microsoft applications, so specifically in those processes. Do you see them coexist in the European institutions?
We are M365 users. I work with colleagues, in different places because the GRC is active in 6 sites in Europe. So yeah, God bless Microsoft 365, and the integration of AI, I think, is inevitable. But I heard also, and that's not me Eurocrat speaking, but what I heard also in the techies environment is that they use AI to increase a lot their prices, and they have this kind of monopoly that indeed your organization cannot function without Outlook calendars, and so that would be more my very personal reservations. But as I said, more AI in these office tools, especially the meeting organization. You know, I want an AI to organize my meetings. Bill, if you hear us, please.
Yes.
Good afternoon. I'm Alia Ghizani from Ministry of Finance. I work for a legal service, and I had a question about legal point of view, because we discussed a lot about business aspect, but we didn't discuss really about checks and control of implementation of compliance without AI Act. Because if we implement this kind of things in public service, we must ensure that we are compliant with AI Act. And for example, with the data protection, we have a jurisdiction, a specific one. And for AI Act, there is a specific jurisdiction will check the project, for example, for regulation before vote, before approval by the Parliament. This is one of the questions, because we must have a check within the public service that we are compliant with the AI Act, and with the other side, we must ensure that our proper national regulation is compliant with the AI Act. I make the parallel with data protection.
That's a very important question, but you can attend the debate that we'll have on Thursday, that is on the AI Act implementation. So for the moment, we have to designate the authorities and the surveillance market authorities and the central authorities and the notifying authorities, such as the AI Act could be applicable. But the intern audit has also launched an inquiry in order to see if there is prohibited, because that is in place, prohibited application that would run. But we did the mapping, and we did not identify any possible prohibited application. But it will be done now by an internal audit, and then the market authorities and the notifying the authorities, the regulatory authorities, will be designated.
Okay. If I have understood, then we will have a specific service within our public service. For example, Ministry of Finance.
We talk about setting up an help desk. For the compliance. And with AI for Belgium, we also have the possibility to accompany project, but there will be probably a help desk, and AI for Belgium will participate to it. We will see exactly how. Moreover, there is a committee that is set up, that is already existing, that is the Data and AI committee, so you can ask them any question you have regarding ethical aspects of your project, and you can send your question to this committee.
Okay. This is a committee here in Boza.
In Boza, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe to add on the project I was referring to, I didn't develop much the compliance aspect, but as I said in the introduction, the DNA of the project is to build a safe and compliant platform from day one. So our first project milestone achievement was really a data protection record approved by our commission data protection officer. So we took a lot of effort. Also, we have the intellectual property desk of the commission within the GRC, and we have been working with them very closely on this topic. So this is completely part of the project. So we didn't do like the advice in Google product management playbook, where they say first you build, then you sell, and then you comply. Right? Here, compliance was from day one. Yeah.
Okay, a last and short question.
Short question, because I'm working with IBM, and because all US tech seems to be big bad wolf today, I can tell you with IBM, we strongly believe in the EU AI Act. By the way, Francesca Rossi was one of the high expert part of the team. And everything to do with open source LLMs and AI is really part of our strategy. So if anybody has any questions, and by the way, to the person of EY, very happy to have a chat on what consulting means. And the question to the organization.
Okay.
Sorry,
so,
I just want to ask one question. And the lady was also asking about the EU AI Act. I have the impression when I hear the panel speaking that at the moment it's not taken as an AI Act which is already in application. That's really astonishing to me as a public service.
Yeah, the AI Act is entered, I don't know the terms, legal terms, into force on August 2024, but the application is on August 2025 and then August 2026, and we are working hard on that, so on the regulatory sandbox, on designing the authorities and all that, so please attend the super panel that will be moderated by Iso de Villenfein here on Thursday. But I have a last question for the panel. Thank you all, and I see that there are many questions pending. We can talk afterward, but we have to stop at the moment. So looking ahead 10 years.
Just a word, sorry, on the big bad wolf. Everybody who respects the rules and the values that we have is our friend. So if you associate that behavior with American companies, there is a bias in your model.
Okay. So looking at 10 years, what are the greatest opportunities and threats presented by governmental AI adoption? Let's say only the opportunities. What do you see in the use of AI 10 years ahead or 5 years ahead? Because 10 years is much.
Well, what I'd always like to say is I want AI to stand for something different than artificial intelligence. As far as our civil servants are concerned, AI should stand for augmented intelligence, not replacing civil servants, but augmenting them, which is, we will have to fight for that, because what you see happening in the United States or in companies is replacing employees, not augmenting employees. So augmenting intelligence. And as far as our service provision is concerned, I would like AI to stand for adaptive interactions, in the sense that we want to provide services which are so personalized. It's like when you visit the Amazon website. No two of us see the same website. The website adapts it completely to what you'd like to buy, what you have bought, and what we think that you would like to buy. I would like to have a mygovernment.be, which is unique for each and every one of us, which adapts itself to what it knows about us, what our needs are as a citizen, and which can provide services which are personalized and adapted to the citizen.
Thank you, Hans. Christine?
Well, I just checked my notes because I wrote down the same things. If you look at a fully automated public sector in 10 years, it will be highly personalized. It will be highly data-driven, predictive, etc., etc. The jobs are going to change. The people are going to have time to help citizens with specific problems that AI cannot solve, where you need the human skills. But I'm absolutely convinced that if we want to get there, if we want to arrive in 2035, which is not such a long time, if we want to arrive there safely, we are really, really, really going to have to fight for those ethical guardrails and for everything that we need to structure and govern whatever is coming towards us. Because if you look today at what is happening in the States and what's happening with Musk, etc., it's not. It doesn't bode very well.
Colin?
I hope in 10 years that we find a way to use the opportunities that AI gives responsibly and also take into account the risks. And maybe on a personal level, would also be nice to do audits and then see everything compliant and in order.
Okay. Bertrand, do you want to add something? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I mean, I made the analogy with the internet, right? 10 years after 1995 is the internet of 2005, right? So it's still a good internet. Social media are arriving slowly but surely, but it's still possible to live on the internet. The ideals of the internet are still there. So by analogy, I would say that the AI of 2035 maybe will be indeed the good part that we dream of, which is more automation of knowledge-intensive tasks. So I'm more wondering what comes next when our AI agents will realize that we are completely depending on them, and then it becomes, you know, the 2015 and 2025 of the internet, and then I'm afraid.
Okay, thank you all. Thank you all the people online, and do not hesitate to have a look at the rest of the program. That is very inspiring, and you have many debates and presentation of books and keynotes during the rest of the week. Thank you.